Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are going to try out a game called The Fall, and it's the Act 1 and it's a demo version. The story of three foreign students at a private British boarding school becoming information brokers within the school walls brought them money and respect, but knowledge can also bring trouble. The forbidden fruit was forced into their mouths and its taste will remain forever. That sounds ominous. And I think we should just jump in immediately, honestly. Oh. Let's see how The Fall is like, shall we? Oh my god. Okay, Grispell College, a private boarding school, located at the heart of England in a small town of the same name between Manchester and Leeds. This school has a centuries-old history, and everything that happened within its walls was hidden for a long time under a dark curtain of mystery. This school took upon itself the education of the Blue Blood Sons and never accepted any foreigners. Not born British? ? Not interested? Next. The University of Oxford and Cambridge hunted for Grispell students. The thirst for them never quenched. It was easy to identify a Grispell pupil in any crowd. Sophisticated clothes, neat hair, aristocratic gait, focused and, most importantly, arrogant gaze. Okay. Lovely. In the last decade, Grispell has changed. The curtain rose and the entry requirements weakened, although you still had to be the best to be accepted. For centuries, the school was only accepting British boys, but in 2013 it announced that it would begin to consider application from both sexes. The following year, another radical statement was made and the school began accepting people from all over the world, but only according to a certain quota. 80% of Britons, 20% of foreigners. Now everyone had a chance to get in. Even after such changes, Grispell did not lose the conservative rules and, for example, still practiced the use of physical force or punishment. Oh damn! The changes in admission had no effect on the success of graduates, and Grispell continued to produce the most educated and intelligent members of society until one fatal year. How could such a great institution fall? Ooh. Are we gonna play the foreigners who break everything apart? Get up! Oh, sorry. Get up! A deep voice boomed in the hallway, followed by loud knocks on a neighboring door. Wake up! I can't do it. The sound of a hurried footsteps approached the room. Get up! The same voice called, now closer, accompanied by more knocks. Then silence fell. No voices, no footsteps, no knocks. Suddenly, the door swung open. A man stepped inside, his expression displeased as he shouted, "Get up! You too, August!" August groaned. Is it morning already? I just closed my eyes. The man at the door was Mr. Naylor, the housemaster. He didn't linger, moving on to wake the others. With eyes bleary and red, as if stung by pepper spray, August rolled onto his side, facing the bunk bed across the room, where his friends were still asleep. This is August. Guys, I'm going back to sleep, he murmured, his voice pained. Make up some excuse for Naylor. The info panel will help make you choices. Oh my god, look at this. August is a great liar. Unnoticeable. He can walk silently, hides well. Empath, afraid of hurting people, or he can't fight. Misha, superhuman vitality, cruel, has no pity for others. Scattered mind and never takes anything seriously, never loses his temper. And Abu, strong, he can and loves to fight. Okay, he likes fighting, emotional, easily gets very angry, never lies and hates being lied to, very loud. Who will help August? How about Abu? Abu, figure something out, please. Oh no, I should have picked Misha for that. Abu sat up in his lower bunk, a frown creasing his forehead. August, you know how I feel about lying. What do you want from me? But there was no answer. August had already turned away, drifting back into a deep, inviolable sleep. Abu sighed heavily. I should have picked Misha. He turned to the boy above. Misha, you get up. If two of us don't come, Naylor will hound us. Misha began to wheeze. Getting up so early will surely lead to my demise. I wish for a never-ending dream when Naylor doesn't exist. I can put you in a coma. My savior, yes, please. Oh wow, they have to like... Okay. Misha and Abu left the bedroom. Oh my eye, sorry. They hurried to the bathroom. There was already a bunch of boys trying to quickly wash up and get ready for the school day, since everyone wanted to get their breakfast as soon as possible. Mr. Naylor was personally present in the same room. He was making sure that everyone was awake and supervising the younger students, who neglected hygiene and didn't want to brush their teeth. Wow, this school is like... harsh. Very strict. He was a man in his 60s, of average height, with neatly combed grey hair. A round, wrinkled face, a large nose, solemn brown eyes, and thick eyebrows. There was a legend going around the school that once, very long ago, Mr. Naylor smiled, but it was hard to believe. Misha and Abu entered the bathroom. Both were tall and easy to see in the background of the other students who seemed like little boys next to them. Misha had eyes as blue as the ocean, a thin, cheekboned face, and, which was totally against the school's rules, long hair, red on the right and black on the left. Abu had black and thick hair, brown eyes, a thin face with a constant bristle, because the school rules did not allow beards, and a mighty jaw. All sinks were occupied, so Abu approached a younger boy who was stubbornly brushing his teeth. Without saying a word, took him by the collar and threw him a couple of meters back. Whoa! Misha did the same. These guys are bullies! Mr. Naylor was analyzing everyone's present with his diamond eyes like a warden in a prison, but did not tell them off. Older students could allow themselves certain disrespects towards the youngsters. However, after noticing August's absence, he could no longer keep silent. Where is August? Abu signed and, trying not to lie, replied, He's obviously not here. The housemaster frowned. Really? And I thought that I've gone blind and couldn't see his shaggy head among the students. Be more specific. Where is he? In the UK. More specific. In England. Even more specific. In Grisbo. I see. He's sleeping at the wrong time again. So in the evening he will take out all the trash from the house. Well, he might not be sleeping. Abu, do you want to take out the trash too? Abu fell silent. He just smiled and spoke in Russian. Our honest hero. Back off. Abu slapped Misha on the head. It's too early for your bullshit. Oi! Only English in public places. After brushing their teeth, Misha and Abu wandered back to their room and woke August up. Waking him up was tough. As soon as he opened his eyes, Misha yelled, August, an exciting adventure awaits you tonight. You're going to take out the trash. He understood nothing, nodded his head, mumbled something and rolled out of bed. He started dressing up. August was like his friends, tall but not nearly as solidly built. He did not like sports and found them difficult. Even just playing football in a yard was a challenge. He handled the ball like a bear, and any attempt to kick it ended with him on the ground. Perhaps this was due to his long black hair, which constantly fell on his face and covered his eyes, but getting rid of them was not an option. The eyes? Or the hair? He believed that they looked good with his high cheekbone face and emerald eyes. He loved to create a mystical atmosphere around himself, and such an appearance was perfect for a mysterious image. Aren't you going to brush your teeth? August yawned widely. After breakfast? If you had slept at night and not read poetry, you would feel fine now. I wasn't reading poetry. August raised his index finger. I was writing it. The three dressed quickly and went to breakfast, continuing with the small talk. After walking down the long, dark hallway of their house and pushing aside all the other boys who were walking nearby, they reached a wooden spiral staircase that led them down to the exit of the building. The chatter didn't stop until they were outside. A stone path made of dark bricks, carefully driven into the ground with low stone fences along the edges that were decorated with bushes and slightly overgrown branches of freedom-loving plants. On both sides of the path stretched the boarding house, which was an old work of an British architecture. It was made of dark brick with some slightly protruding and darkened bricks, rectangular windows with white frames, and chimneys that had not been used for a long time. Where the building ended, the path continued and led through a huge field of bright green grass straight to the main school building, which was a 4-story giant in the Victorian neo-Gothic style, with many small towers on the roof. The overcast sky and thick fog made the whole image magical. For all the students, this view was commonplace, but it was rare to observe such a thick fog that inspired mysticism and created the impression of a fairy tale. So August, Misha, and Abu immediately fell silent. Their eyes widened as if they wanted to better capture this moment in their memory. August shattered the silence. Such beauty! That's what I'm ready to wake up for. They wandered along the path and out into the field. On both sides, several high rugby gates were barely visible through the fog, near which training would begin soon. Somewhere in the distance, the outlines of a small two-story building could be seen. That was the so-called pavilion, where students changed clothes before games. The fog did not allow to see more. The complete silence was only occasionally broken, like the intermittent chirping of wild birds in the wilderness, by the laughter of short phrases of students who were walking along the same path to school. Up close, the main building seemed more massive and picturesque than one might expect. Many first-year students imagined going to Hogwarts classes every morning, and it wasn't hard to figure out why. The building looked magical. The dining room was located on the ground floor, along with several classrooms and the Great Hall, where school assemblies were held. The entrance to the library was also on the ground floor, but the library itself went up 3 floors. Damn, that's a huge library. All floors above the ground floor were allocated only for studies, and accordingly, there were only classrooms. The trio approached the school. August, Misha, and Abu entered the dining room. August walked yawning. Misha kept his hands in his pockets, hunched over a little, and lazily shifted his legs, and Abu kept his back perfectly straight and walked confidently, strongly swinging his shoulders. They walked around the entire queue of younger students, stood at the buffet first, and after exchanging a few polite words with the cooks, received their breakfast: fried eggs, hash browns, beans, mushrooms, and bacon. As soon as they sat down, Abu gave his bacon to August and Misha, and everyone began to eat. The food was passable, but like any English food, tasteless. Okay. August asked Misha, while using up most of his strength to cut the dry bacon with a blunt knife, "Misha, do we have any math homework? I haven't opened my textbook since the beginning of the year, and we always play chess in class. Do you think I know?" Abu joined the conversation. "It turns out that I lost my textbook in the first week, but only noticed a month later." What a legend. But Misha, it's still unfair that we both do nothing in maths and you manage to get great results, while I barely pass. And it's just as unfair that you're fucking Shakespeare and you teach English lit teacher, even though you skip most of class. And all history and politics teachers are afraid of Abu, so he doesn't need to study. They're not brave enough to give him a bad grade. Perchance? Abu uses fear. You, Misha, use pure luck, and well, I'm just a damn genius. In your dreams, cunt. Whoa! The 3 laughed. Another young student ran into the dining room, but instead of getting in line with the others, he ran up to the trio, gathered their sleepy glances, and said, "Misha, Abu, August, you have mail. It's in the office." The friends exchanged glances, then looked back at the boy. No fucks given. Absolutely. "I fully support your intelligent statement, dear sir. But the letters are from Oxford. From the university." Friends exchanged glances again. August stretched out his face in surprise. Abu raised his right eyebrow and smiled. And Misha has always looked like with his indifferent half-closed gaze, but now something sparkled in his eyes. Without finishing their breakfast, they quickly got up like soldiers at the sight of a superior and ran to the office, almost knocking over one of the teachers on the way. The shocked teacher shouted to them, "Where are you rushing to?" "Letters from Oxford. They've finally decided." The wooden floor creaked under their feet, and all the teachers grumbled at them for such infantile behavior, not suitable for older students. The trio did not care. They flew into the school office and shouted in unison, "Do we have any mail?" The sacred envelopes quickly appeared in their hands, and they froze. Hearts were racing. They were afraid to open them. August stated, "Gentlemen, it's time." They shook hands, breathing heavily, opened the envelopes, and started to eagerly read. Their eyes ran wildly over the page, trying to grasp the letter faster. The silence lasted for a minute, then Misha broke the ice. Welcome to the Oxford Vernay program, our special program for gifted students. Please do understand your privilege. The best come to Oxford. The best of the best come to Vernay. What does this mean? It's the same for me. The special program? This is what the headmaster told us about the beginning of the year. We did it! Suck it! Misha and Abu shook hands again, but this time with a clap and smile from ear to ear. We passed some kind of special selection. August, what about you? Oh no. August looked up and his face showed no emotion. He looked at Misha, then at Abu, yawned, scratched his head, and finally said, rejection. Aww. Two weeks ago. 3 o'clock in the morning, everyone around has been asleep for a long time, and the light offended after deciding that no one needs it. Left the surroundings. What? The cold darkness questions God's efficiency on the first day of work, but doubts thinned at the sight of one window in the boarding house. The window, as it was not difficult to guess, belonged to the room of 3 friends detached from this world. Orange light filtered through the curtains, which seemed to be the only source of warmth on a cold November night, but the real warmth did not come from the light, but from the souls of those who had hid behind the curtains. August, Misha and Abu were sitting on the floor in the very center of the room. August, while pouring himself the first mug of red wine from a dark bottle, there were no glasses, were puffing on a cigarette. Abu was trying to light a cigarette that he held in his mouth, but the old cheap lighter was not in the mood and refused to fulfill its duty. Misha was taking a cigarette out of a packet. After pouring himself a full mug of wine, August poured the same amount into Misha's mug, then poured warm sherry juice from a cardboard package for Abu. Their room was cozy and warm, mainly due to the heavily melted radiators that the housemaster finally designed to turn on. I apologize. The weak night lights, the heat from the radiators, complete silence from all sides, cigarette smoke curling in the air, and the company of the closest people allowed sweet languor to embrace those present. Hello? Guys, I finally found our album. He pulled out a battered book. I thought you lost it back in September. I was afraid we'll never see those legendary photos again. August opened the album and the 3 of them eagerly leaned in to examine its contents. Oh, this is the day we were accepted into Gristbell. Yes, we were 13 then. I remember you got some kid from the yard to take our picture while we opened the letters. I remember. I wanted to capture that moment for life. I used to have boring hair. You had normal hair, weirdo. And you, Abu, had a baby mustache. Such a cutie. Shut up. That was after reading the letter. I was running all over the yard in excitement. Then I got tired and collapsed. Oh my god. Here I am at home. That kid even took pictures of you at home? Apparently, Abu scared me so much that they decided to take pictures of everything. I don't even remember him coming home with me. Why do you look so sad here? You were just accepted into Gristball 10 minutes ago. I don't know. August ripped the photograph out of the album. I look bad on this one. I don't want to keep it. Misha and Abu exchanged glances but said nothing. The hell? And this is Misha after his first rugby session. I decided to play with the older kids. It was a mistake. But a really fun mistake. You didn't just decide to play with the older kids. You started playing football with their rugby ball, and when one of them knocked you down, you started fighting him, even though he was twice your size. Where was I during all of this? I wouldn't have missed that fight. Hiding in the bushes, what the hell? Oh, and this is a picture I took. That's when I fell from a tree into cow shit. Yes, on that day, cow dung saved your life. You fell from 10 meters right into that pile. I was so scared, but then you pulled your head out of the grass and started looking around like a chick hatched from an egg, as if you had entered a new world. And then I climbed back up that tree. And this is a photo after I sat at the bottom of the river for a bet. You sat not for 5 minutes, but for 10. August and I were so used to your invincibility that we didn't pull you out, thinking you were just sitting there on purpose. After 10 minutes, we realized and got you out. You were unconscious. Is there even one photo of Misha that wasn't taken after he narrowly escaped the death? Here, this is before you dodged the scythe. I dyed my hair red and went to show off in front of the headmaster. Well, is that Abu or is that actually Misha? Because in that case, they should have. This text is incorrect. And this is Abu teaching history to the history teacher. How old were you? 14? 15, I think. And this is you, August. Yeah. They close the album. Poor August, it doesn't really have. Abu finally lit a cigarette and said, August, it's your turn today. He got up, holding a mug in one hand and a cigarette in the other, and, as if shouting, but still trying not to raise his voice too much so as not to wake anyone, began to speak. Well, we can start. He cleared his throat, looked at his friends, and began the obligatory ceremony of their weekly meetings. Who are we? Misha and Abu lifted their mugs in the air and answered in chorus. Brothers, soon to get sewn to each other tightly by a spiritual thread. What the hell is this? What do? We extract the truth and fight our way to freedom. What will we not tolerate? Control. We won't let anyone boss us around because without freedom, life is tasteless. That's right, we are brothers. Woven not by blood, but by souls. Together to the grave, we strive for freedom, physically and mentally. Misha and Abu got up to clink mugs because the opening speech always ended at this point, but August did not stop. What's worth more than money? His friend looked at him in surprise. Where did you get this from? Have you decided to extend the speech? I just want to know your opinion. Well, that's a good question. I never really thought about it. Maybe authority and power? Although power usually comes with money. It can be bought with money, so it can be more expensive. And freedom? You can buy freedom. Misha got annoyed. Quit this philosophy bullshit. Let's clink mugs already and have a drink. I want wine. Friends decided not to argue and ended the extended introduction with a clink of mugs, then took a sip and exhaled sweetly. The opening speech was only for fetus and romance. They were not part of any sect, although they fully believed in their brotherhood and took it seriously. August took a sip of wine and said, We have 2 new assignments, one from Mr. Naylor, not particularly interesting, but the other is unusual, anonymous. Oh, anonymous. Then it's either from the headmaster or the vice master. Ordinary teachers come to us directly. Tell us about the anonymous one first. Seems kinda exciting. August took an envelope out of his pocket. In the evening, this envelope appeared on my desk. He opened it and money started falling out. Money falling down like rain. Born by sin gives birth to pain. Misha inhaled some smoke and asked, How much? £1,000 in 20s? There was also a letter. Basically, there are suspicions that our chemistry teacher, Dr. Knight, is sleeping with a student. Whoa! That old fuck? Yeah, can you imagine? We need to find out who he sleeps with and get some evidence. Then leave another anonymous letter with evidence at the school's office. Got any ideas? Dr. Knight only teaches the older students. 6 formers, doesn't he? Yes, and only 2 groups with girls. The rest of his classes are boys. I was in his office a while ago and saw his schedule. The 3 fell silent to think about the plan. Misha, who had drunk a whole mug of wine almost in one gulp, poured himself the leftovers from the bottle. He became a bit too joyful and, while giggling, shared his idea. I know! I will go to Dr. Knight and demonstrate all my charm and charisma. He'll melt right away and tell us everything himself. Even the cattle dies when you demonstrate your charm. Well, then I don't know. Misha was whining childishly. I can't think straight anymore. Let's figure it out tomorrow. Fucking dipso. Okay, let's leave it for later. We have another assignment from Naylor. What does he want? He felt the smell of weed in the boarding house toilet several times. He wanted us to find out who's the smoker. £500. Damn, they're making cash? Abu furrowed his brows. Wait. You want to turn in one of the students for money? Oh, but it's okay. Oops, I accidentally click. This won't cause her any problem. The responsibility will be on Dr. Knight, and the mistress will be the victim. Alright, they were talking about the girl. If it is a girl, you don't know. Maybe he's after a boy. Besides, it won't go beyond the school. Grispel College is too afraid for its reputation. But for the weed, oh, you'll get fucked. I think I know who smokes in the house. Gideon. I saw him. And I saw him a couple of times in the middle of the night with red eyes and a stupid smile. I wouldn't have taken the assignment otherwise. Abu chuckled. Oh well, if it's him, then I've got no complaints. I'd be happy to cause him as much problems as possible. I've hated him since the first year. He's constantly trying to boss everyone around and then gets surprised if no one listens to him. But if it turns out that it's not him, then we'll give up the assignment. I think first we can find the mystery. Quiet. August opened his eyes wide and, pricking up his ears, stared at the wall. He didn't move for a couple of seconds, and neither did the others. They heard footsteps next to their door. Someone's coming. The trio began to move like a single mechanism. Cigarettes flew out the window. Misha rolled the mugs and a bottle under the bed. August kicked a bag of cherry juice into the corner and, together with Abu, turned off all the lamps. They jumped into the beds at once and hid under the blankets. The door opened slowly. Silence. Then, someone at the door strongly inhaled the air and exhaled just as strongly. The friends didn't move. Gentlemen, Mr. Naylor's voice rang out loudly, filling the entire room. August moved slightly and gasped loudly. Who's here? The others followed him. Misha asked sleepily. What's up? He rubbed his eyes and carefully sat up on the bed. Abu mumbled and, turning over to the other side of the bed, said, Let a man sleep. Mr. Naylor stepped forward. Sir, why are you here? What the hell were you guys doing in this room? Why do I smell cigarettes? The answer came in chorus. Cigarettes? Abu, August, and Misha came to breakfast with their hands slashed. Really? Victims of a wooden ruler and limping after being hit on the butt with a cricket bat. Oh my god, I forgot about the physical violence in this one. Breakfast was painful. The trio could not sit still on the chairs and they were constantly trying to find a position which doesn't press down on their bruises. This made them look like hyperactive children. In addition, they were running on 3 hours of sleep and the desire to live fell off like the leaves of the trees outside the window. Mr. Naylor loves to spank me. Of course, I realize that I'm hideously attractive, but Naylor must have fallen for me a bit too much. August wasn't eating, only slowly sipping his coffee, while Misha and Abu were quietly eating their breakfast while finishing a second cup of coffee. They were silent, no strength to talk. They were fighting off a strong desire to wrap themselves in a warm blanket and fell asleep, leaving the whole world behind the bedroom curtains. Misha, who felt an unexpected surge of strength, smiled ominously and said, Abu, imagine such a situation. You are locked in an empty room, and beside you, there is only a goat and a little girl in it. The only way to leave the room is to choose between the goat and the girl. Abu was confused, so he frowned. Choose whether to kill the goat or the girl? Misha smiled, spread his ears, and then lifted his eyebrows. He started giggling. Hey, no, you don't have to kill them. It's something else. Abu's eyes almost fell out of the sockets, then surprise turned into disgust. He grabbed a knife and tried to stick it into Misha's hand, but Misha deftly pulled his hand away, and the knife stuck into the table. Okay, fine, the goat is female. Is that better? You're a fucking waste of oxygen. I agree, Abu. I agree. A blonde girl came into the dining room and, without grabbing any food, sat down next to her friends in the far end of the dining hall. Misha noticed her right away. That's our target. Abu immediately forgot Misha's joke. See? That blonde over there who just came in? Dr. Knight teaches her. You think she's the one? Abu spoke in a sleepy voice, but his eyes screamed focus. No, I don't think she is, but she will help us find the one. I have an idea. We need to catch her on her own and apply some pressure. Look, she's already leaving. Alone. Let's go get her. I'll explain the plan along the way. Yeah, plan. Are you gonna charm her? The three of them stood up at once and started following the blonde. They tried to keep their distance so as not to create suspicion, and Misha whispered further actions while lazily flying through the corridors. The blonde did not notice them and was calmly moving around the school. 10 minutes later, she entered the library. Perfect, we'll catch her in the library. Basically, we need to intimidate her, apply pressure so that she starts to panic, and then we ask questions. The main thing is no mercy. Even if she starts crying, you need to push to the end. Let's decide which one of us will be the leading figure. Who will push with all his might? Okay, this is what we need to So August is a great liar, but he has a lot of empathy and afraid of hurting people. And this one, I think Misha would probably be the best as well, because cruel, has no pity for others, scattermind, never takes anything seriously, and he never loses his temper. Yeah, I think otherwise Abu is not Abu. August is a good liar, but we don't need that. I think we need Misha because they are cruel. There've been a few misspellings, but so far it's been an interesting story. The Grispel library was impeccable. All sheeted in dark noble wood, stored thousands of books from different eras, was comfortably illuminated by warm light, and had facilities for both reading and studying. I almost said dying. This was August's favorite place, where he could spend hours skipping classes, escaping from reality to thousands of other worlds provided by books or sweet dreams. Misha, August, and Abu fly into the library as if it was their home. Misha loudly greeted the librarian. Seeing him almost made her faint, because during the last visit, Abu dared Misha to kick through a bookcase, which he did. Oh my god. After assuring her that there will be no incidences this time, the three began to look for the blonde. After checking the first 2 floors and not finding her, they went up to the last, 3rd floor, where their victim was sitting alone and peacefully studying. Misha, oh my god! Misha immediately began to act radically, just as he likes, and jumped on the table, landing on his side in a reclining position right in front of the blonde. He's a wild card. He smiled and casted a seductive glance. Well, hello, you're Lucy, right? The blonde got so scared that she almost fell off of her chair, but August managed to catch her, after which he sat down on the table next to her and held out his hand. He gently shook her hand and said, "Bonjour, ma chère, don't be afraid. Chérie, I don't know. Fear harms beauty, and you have lot to lose." What? Lucy smiled at August. A scumbag and a hopeless romantic. Why am I still friends with them? He didn't talk to Lucy and just stood very close to her, blocking the light like a brick wall and creating the necessary tension. "Hi, and who are you?" The question was ignored. "What are you studying here?" Misha looked at her textbook. "Ah, chemistry. 6-membered heterocycles with 2 heteroatoms. Kindergarten stuff." "Kindergarten? I wouldn't say that. Chemistry is killing me." "Is it? And have you taken any extra classes from Dr. Knight?" "No, I don't like him at all. Don't want to spend any extra time with him." "Really?" He sat cross-legged on the table, moved his face so close to Lucy's that their noses almost touched, and opened his eyes so wide that they began to look like 2 huge moons. "Don't you share a bed with him, honey?" Lucy's face showed both disgust and fear. "What?" Abu moved even closer and looked down on her. "Stop pretending. We know, and not just us." "Don't talk nonsense. Of course not." August followed Abu and moved closer. Misha screamed, "Lucy, stop bullshitting!" Lucy jumped in her chair. "Yesterday I saw you in the pavilion. I saw the 2 of you walking out an empty room. What else could you be doing there?" "Yes, I was there too, and I saw everything." No, what kind of nonsense is this?" "And I also saw you hold hands from the boarding house window. Half the school is talking about it." "That can't be true. It's not true." Lucy started to panic, but Misha kept pushing. "Admit it already. Everyone knows anyway. It won't be a problem for you. All the blame will be on Dr. Knight. Just admit it." "I didn't do anything with Dr. Knight." "I'm tired of lies." "I hate liars." "I'm not lying." "How often do you spend time with him?" "Never. Not once." "Are you sure?" "Yes. Of course. I swear." "Oh, you a little liar." "Little liar." Misha's screams almost made her fall off her chair again. "And who did he make his mistress if not you?" Not me. "Then who did I see?" It She lowered her gaze for a second and then looked up at Misha again. "I don't know." Misha thought, "Gotcha, she knows who his mistress is." Their friends looked at each other and smiled maliciously. Misha sighed and calmly, with a bit of disappointment, said, "Another lie. You know something." Tell us about it. I don't know, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you anything. Get away from me. He isn't breaking, Misha thought. Well, she will. Lucy, we know something, and we'll tell you. A couple of days ago in the evening, I went to the toilet in our boarding house. Of all the cubicle, only one was occupied, which isn't very strange, but the strangeness was that I felt a strong scent of mango in the toilet. Lucy's eyes widened and her mouth opened slightly. She knew what he was talking about. I became interested and decided to wait. A small 13-year-old boy came out from the cubicle, and you won't believe it. He tried to hide a disposable vape in his pajamas. Where did such a small child get it? I asked him. You know the answer himself. Lucy drooped. He looked down at the floor and clenched her fists. Abu supported Misha. Of course, the punishment for smoking is unpleasant, but not too strict. However, the sale of tobacco products, especially for 13-year-olds, can end badly. The boy's parent can make such a scandal that you will be kicked out of school. You're a smart girl, so you know perfectly well why we told you this. Now it's your turn, Lucy. Share your knowledge. Lucy was quiet. Misha did not take his eyes off of her. I can't help you. I don't know anything. Oh, what a pity. August, please go to the headmaster and tell him everything. With great pleasure. August got up and headed for the stairs. When he almost out of sight, she shouted, Wait! Okay, I'll tell you. August returned with a smile on his face. I don't know why you need this information, but I'll tell you what I know. I have a suspicion that it's Elizabeth. What's her surname? Brown. So Elizabeth Brown. Good. Why do you suspect her? Well, first of all, Dr. Knight treats her differently from everyone else. She shouldn't. What? She shit in chemistry? No, she's shit. I read that complete. My brain is not right. I apologize. She's shit in chemistry, but he constantly asks her questions in class. She always answers incorrectly, and he praises her and pretends that everything is correct. And in general, he treats her kindly. Never scolds her like he does with everyone else, compliments her, and all that sort of thing. Sounds about right. The attitude towards his mistress will not be the same as towards everyone else, but this does not prove anything. Secondly, there were rumors about them last month. Someone saw them together in town near the mall, and everyone's been discussing this, but soon... But everyone got bored because there was no new evidence. I remember something like that. In October, I think I heard some girls talking about it. And back in September, before all the rumors, I came to class a little earlier than the bell rang. There was no one in the classroom except for Dr. Knight and Elizabeth. And as soon as I walked in, it seems to me that Knight kissed her on the cheek, and when they saw me, they both fussed, but did not say a word. I decided I just imagined it, because I was very sleepy on that day. Then I completely forgot about it, and I only remembered last month when the rumors started. It all fits together. That's all I know. Now you won't tell anyone about me, right? Please. Misha relentlessly declared. We have one more request for you. We need proof. We'll give you a tape recorder and you'll need to get a confession from Elizabeth. But how? She will never talk about it. It doesn't matter how. Find a way. Start some girly conversation with her. Ask which teachers she likes. Something like that. I'll bring the recorder. Lucy was scared and asked in a trembling voice. And if I fail? You won't, unless you want to be kicked out of school. They didn't know how to respond, so everyone sat in silence for a couple of minutes until August returned with the recorder. There you go, mademoiselle. He handed her the recorder. You press the button with the triangle and the recording begins. And to stop it, you press the button with a square. Lucy, you have 3 days. Oh, okay. Good luck. That was the end of the conversation. Misha, August, and Abu went down the stairs and left the library. As soon as they walked out, they started laughing and shaking each other's hands. Everything went perfectly. Did you really catch someone vaping in a toilet? No. A couple of days ago, I heard some youngsters discussing where to buy vapes, and someone mentioned Lucy. Now she really thinks that she can be expelled, and she will try her best to get the confession. Yes, but you still might fail. I'm going to keep an eye on this Elizabeth and Dr. Knight for today, and take our old camera with me. Maybe I'll catch something. The friends walked down the hall. The lessons had started 30 minutes ago, and it was uncivilized to be so late, so they decided not to come at all. The next 3 days were ordinary, without any special incidents except for one trick from Misha. He was 20 minutes late for physics class, opened the door with a kick and, ignoring the teacher, went to an empty desk by the window. "Misha!" the teacher shouted. "What the hell have you been?" "Sir," Misha mumbled drunkenly, even though he wasn't drunk, "I have a good reason for being late." There was no reason, of course. "What reason?" "I'll be surprised if you had a good reason." Misha felt disgusted to be in this class. He never wanted to come. "Oh, I'll surprise you without even telling you the reason." With that, he picked up his desk and threw it at the window, shattering the glass. Everyone was speechless, and Misha just stood slouching and smiling as if looking at a flock of sheep. "Have you completely lost your mind?" the teacher shouted. "Maybe," Misha replied calmly and left the classroom. It's easy to guess that the punishment was severe, but Misha was used to it. Also, several information orders were received, but almost all were rejected either because of the small fee or because the tasks were not to the liking of the trio. Only one task was complete. Some rich junior was willing to pay £100 for a history test that he was supposed to have at the end of the week. It was an easy task for Abu because he often visits the history teacher's offices. He stole the test and earned £100. And so the third day was coming to an end. There was no news from Lucy. The task was failed. Both the trio and the money had to be returned. Is it really that hard to make a schoolgirl talk? I wish I would have caught Elizabeth and Dr. Knight. The photos would be a perfect proof. It was already late and there was no hope of Lucy's appearance when suddenly someone knocked on the door, and without waiting for an answer, the door swung open. It was Lucy. She whispered, "Hi." August was surprised. "Lucy, how did you get into our boarding house?" "One of the windows of the ground floor was still open. I climbed in." They thought Lucy came to apologize, admit that she failed, and beg not to snitch, but they were wrong. It worked. Elizabeth told me everything. "Oh, what a lovely girl you are! Did you record it?" "Yes, here." She handed over the recorder. "How did you do it?" "I got her drunk. She couldn't stop talking after a couple of shots." Everyone fell silent and stared at Lucy. "Well done," Lucy said shyly. "Look, it's none of my business, of course, but why do you need this? And the proof." "We don't need it. Others do. Our job is to get info. By the way, if you ever need to find something out, then come to us. For a modest fee, we can help." Lucy was surprised. She didn't even know that there were such people in their school. Most of Grispel students are nerds or rich loafers, while these guys seem to be from a completely different book. From a novel. "So you were paid for this information?" "Of course." "How much?" "Enough." "By whom?" "My dear and curious Lucy, this is confidential information." "Well, okay. I'll go then." "Sure, we'll see you later." Lucy had almost closed the door, but then she came back. "Listen, why do you still go to school at all?" "How many questions do you have?" "What do you mean?" "To get into uni. We won't be accepted anywhere without graduating from a school." "And why do you want to go to university? I mean, why are you interested in studying at all? You're pulling up such schemes and earn money from them." "I don't think any other Grispel student is able to squeeze information out of me like that and force me to squeeze it out of others. You can become information brokers on a larger scale or some common." Friends were bewildered. They didn't know what to say and didn't seem to know why they were going to university. The faces clearly showed discomfort. Abu hesitated. Well, Listen, just get out of here. I'm tired of you poking your nose into other people's businesses. We know too much about you, so don't try to annoy us." He got angry. Lucy got frightened and immediately left. No one criticized Abu, and the trio didn't say a word about her question. They seemed to have forgotten all about it and went back to their studies. At first, it may seem that these three are just slackers who are always dodging their studies, but the cover of the book is lying. They study, even drown in their studies, but ignore all subjects that they do not like. Misha drowned in natural science a long time ago, and now with Lucy's departure he continued to drown in mathematics. Abu has been a drowned man of the humanities science since childhood, and I was reading some historical book with too long a title, occasionally taking notes. August, as it was easy to guess, was shot through the heart by poetry, literature, and basically everything that can be attributed to the word aesthetics, and now he continued to read some ancient poetry. They devoted a lot of time to their subjects, and that night studied in silence until sleep took over. Time passed, and Misha, Abu, and August eagerly awaited a response from Oxford. No one knew how long it would take the admissions committee to decide the fate of the students. The power that was in the hands of the admissions committee was frightening, since a couple of hand movements could produce an academic execution, after all. For many, especially in Grispel, Oxford and Cambridge were considered the only suppliers of oxygen to their academic lives, or conversely, bestowed the status of a saint. Misha and Abu didn't worry too much. Their entrance exam and the interviews went great, but August was nervous and had trouble sleeping since the interview, where he muddied the science that he was supposed to worship. He successfully cheated on that interview with an earphone, because at Oxford no one could have imagined that a schoolboy would dare such arrogance and go against ethics. He was able to answer all the questions correctly, but his final trick was inexcusable and was the fuel of his worries. Information tasks were received in the usual amount, 3-4 tasks per week, and all were completed on time. They allowed the tree to forget and pass the time, but not as much as studying. For 2 weeks, August was buried in books. Misha and Abu were in similar states. They also began to devote more time to their subjects, but not as much as August, who fenced himself off from reality with a wall of books. Finally came the fatal day mentioned at the very beginning of the story, and the letters from Oxford arrived. That day turned into an evening, and evening turned into night. The trio was once again sitting on the floor in the meeting room and were ready to start their weekly meeting. "Who are we?" Abu shouted. August whispered. "Brothers, bound to each other tightly by a spiritual thread. What do? We extract the truth and fight our way to freedom. What will we not tolerate? Control. We won't let anyone boss us around, because without freedom, life is tasteless. That's right, we're brothers woven not by blood, but by souls. Together to the grave, we strive for freedom, physically and mentally." Abu got up and clinked mugs with Misha. August got up with a delay and also clinked glasses with them. He was silent all day, and his eyes looked like glass. It seemed that the rejection hit him hard, and he spent the whole day thinking about what's next. We have a couple of tasks for the week, but I think we'll discuss them later. Now we need to discuss something else. August tilted his head to the left and stared at Misha with a stone face and a sad look. What do we need to discuss? He already knew what it was about. You haven't been yourself today. Sad, silent. We understand that this is because of the letter, because of the rejection. That's right. I'm not gonna hide it. We know that you deserve to get in more than others. You just chose the wrong course. Why apply for economics if you hate it? The green eyes suddenly showed pain, and as if ashamed, moved down, looking at the floor. It was... August stuttered. It was my father's decision. Misha and Abu knew that August had a difficult relationship with his father, although not in detail, but enough to understand the situation. I'm not really worried about the rejection. I'm more scared of my father's reaction, Abu said in a good-natured tone. Well, what did he expect by forcing his son to apply for a hated degree? It's not a big deal. Explain to him that you still study economics, just at a different university. You're his son. He wants the best for you. August's eyes jumped at Abu, but no longer expressed pain. It was anger. You don't understand. That's the point. He doesn't care about his son. All he thinks about is status, family status, and his own status. And he's addicted to showing off and self-affirmation. His friends. Hell, they're not his friends. They're all his enemies, and they probably don't even know about it. Everyone around him at the same show-offs, and some of the children are already studying or going to Oxford or Cambridge or some damn Harvard. And if he finds out that I've been rejected, it will be a catastrophe. The end of his world. A man like him would die of shame if he asked where I studied and he can't reply Oxbridge. Yes, he will personally fly to England and drown me. Abu, why did you decide that you know anything about my father and his reaction when you don't know anything about my family? I told him that I won't be accepted to economics, that I would only be able to get into Oxford if I apply for literature. You have to go where the money is, he said. How are you going to make money without an economic degree? He didn't understand shit about education or economics, and he had no desire to understand. He always believes that he knows everything and cannot make a mistake, and now I have to pay for his ignorance. It's easy for you to talk. Your parents treat you like people. Misha raised his eyebrows, but said nothing. August drooped and closed his eye, but did not lose his anger. Abu, usually hot-headed, did not even flinch, perfectly understanding his friend's pain, but now he and Misha were lost. They couldn't find the right words and didn't know how to help. August was breathing heavily and grinding his teeth, angry at the whole world. Everyone sat in silence for a minute. Misha finally asked, "So what's next?" August took a deep breath. He covered his red face with his hands and squeezed his eye with the fingers. His voice began to tremble. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to me. I shouldn't really, I'm sorry. This topic always pisses me off. Don't worry, everything's fine. We're not some girls to get offended. Augustus opened his face. Okay, showed his face and smiled. Without saying a word, as if their souls were indeed sewn together by an invisible thread, everyone realized that the mood had to be diffused urgently, and this whole discussion had to be forgotten. August put on a thievish smile and said, "Well, actually, I have a plan." The anger was gone. The friends chuckled. At that moment, they looked like cunning conmen, although they probably didn't just look like them. They were them, who were about to commit another swindling scam. It has not been fully thought through yet, but if fortune is on my side, it might work. Abu asked excitedly, "So, what is it?" "The school has not informed my father of the rejection yet. I'm sure about that. If he found out, he would have called right away. The school will not hide such news for a long time, so tomorrow or the day after tomorrow I should expect a call. I will listen to his curses and then tell him that I received a rejection from the Faculty of Economics because I was accepted to the Vernay program. This, you see, is their process, a formality. Vernay students are not tied to any faculty." The smile got stuck to Augustus' face, and his narrowed eyes gilded smoothly from one listener to another, but the listeners were confused. "I will tell him how privileged this program is, and he will melt. That sweet feeling will stop him from digging any further, I assure you. You're going to lie to him for the whole year, and then what? And then we'll plant explosive under the main building of the university. No, under the whole university. No, under the whole city, and we'll force him to accept you." When did you get drunk? Oxford is a special place. It's not uncommon for them to gift special treatments to some students, if you convince them that they need you. The admissions committee will turn a blind eye to the rules if you try hard enough. All I must do is convince the Department of Literature that they need me. I need to show them that I stand out, so I'll have to get their affection, or better yet, their love. But your father wants you to do economics. That won't matter. He'll tell everyone right away that I got accepted into Oxford, so then he won't have the strength to not let me study literature as long as it's Oxford. Otherwise, he'll be called a liar. Misha and Abu gave this some thought. August was silent all day, not because of the bitterness, although probably partly because of it, but because he was thinking over a plan of action. Abu began to nod approvingly. The plan, of course, is based on luck, but it's possible. If you show them those works of yours that you showed us, say nice words and annoy them enough with requests to accept you, then maybe it will work. I think so too. You have a chance. That's great. The main thing is maximum authenticity. It will be necessary to feel my father's fate in my lives, at least for the next couple of weeks. Such an audacious plan came to August's mind as he was ready to execute it. He did not have to wait long. The next day, during a sleepy breakfast, a messenger, the same one who reported the letters, came to the dining room and approached August. "You have to go to the office. They are saying it's urgent. Your father is on the phone." August looked at his friends and they fixed their eyes on him. Misha smiled. "Good luck." August sighed and without saying a word got up and went to the office. Misha and Abu watched him go. While his hands were clutching the phone, too afraid to bring it to his ears, green glassy eyes stared at one point. Teeth were biting his lower lip and breathing was getting too fast. But finally, he dared. "Hello, Father?" His voice was trembling. "It has begun." August didn't say a word for the next 10 minutes, but the frantic scream from the phone could be heard by the whole room. The women working in the school office, although they did not understand Russian, still perfectly understood the essence of the conversation, and looked at the frightened, trampled face of the boy, sympathizing, worrying, but first of all, satisfying curiosity. The face was always changing its expression, but not a single positive emotion was expressed. His foot was tapping on the floor, sometimes speeding up, sometimes slowing down. His eyes were constantly staring at a single point. "How did you? You bastard, you're not my son. Shame, shame on your name, shame on our name. If you catch my eye, I'll kill you. I will flog you. I've invested so much into you." August moved the phone away from his ear because he already knew everything his father was about to say. He heard it many times. Something glittered in the light near his eyes and his nose sniffed a couple of times. Those 10 minutes seemed to August like an eternity and cost him a lot of nerves. It even seemed to the women that his hair had turned a little grey during this time. The phone finally went silent and only furious and heavy breathing could be heard. The emerald eyes sparkled and woke up. "Father, there seemed to be some kind of misunderstanding." His voice sounded surprisingly calm and cheerful. "I was not accepted to the Faculty of Economics, but there was no refusal from the university itself. They gave me a place in the special Oxford program, Renee. The students of this program are not tied to any faculties, and their entire learning process is different. The headmaster probably informed you about the faculty's rejection because he knew how much you wanted me to learn economics. Also, he must have presented it negatively. He is a pessimist, always looking for problems. But this program is a top of prestige. Almost no one is accepted there, even from our school, and all graduates certainly become successful and often even world famous." August fell silent again and a calm voice came from the phone. He continued after a short pause. Yes, that's right. There's a lot of information about this program on the internet. Even acceptance itself elevates a person's status and puts them on a level above all others." He couldn't help but smile. "Now all the students and teachers see me as a kind of genius." The conversation lasted a couple more minutes in the same calm manner. August continued to praise the program, repeating the words status, privilege, and respect, while not removing the grin from his face. "By the way, they also accepted me. They accepted only a few people. There's just over 100 of us in the whole country, and I don't think there will be any other students from Russia there at all." "Yes, Father." "Okay, I'll keep you posted." August said goodbye and hung up. He took a deep breath and wiped his eyes. Everything went according to plan, but there was no hint of a smile or relief on his face. He glanced at the women who had been staring at him this whole time, nodded awkwardly and left the room. The conversation passed quite quickly, and although for August it felt like an hour, the first stage of the plan was successfully completed. But for unknown reasons, August's nose clogged, his eyes got wet, and his eyelids became heavy. Probably some kind of allergy, he thought. Yeah, sure. He returned to the dining room, which was almost empty. How did it go? According to plan. Beautiful. While you were gone, the headmaster came by. He said that there's some kind of meeting in the Great Hall for everyone who got accepted for Vernay. It's in 20 minutes. It's probably something important. The Great Hall? So many people got accepted? Not really. About 10, including us. I don't know why they chose the Great Hall. Will you go? I don't want to, but I'll go. Yeah. Then I'll try to come with you. August had kept a smile on his face for too long. For maximum authenticity, I'll have to lie to my father for a while, so I need to find out everything about this program. Friends sat in the dining room for a while longer. August was finishing his cold coffee and was silent while Abu scolded Misha for some nonsense, and Misha made dirty jokes in response, making Abu even more angry. The meeting was about to begin, so the three got up and headed for the Great Hall. In the corridor at the entrance to the Great Hall stood the headmaster of Grispel. He was an elderly and thin man of impressive height, with a grey, slightly balding head and a narrow, clean-shaven face. His brown eyes, even from afar, were stern and penetrating. His grey eyebrows were motionless, as if his forehead was paralyzed, and his lips often depicted a smirk. He was wearing a dark blue jacket, a vest of matching color, a white shirt, a tie, a blue and blue trousers, and on his face, as always, there were small rectangular glasses with narrow frames. He stood at the entrance and was letting some students in the hall. The sight was unusual, since the headmaster always made himself look important and never performed such simple tasks in front of the students, but this time, for some reason, he decided to personally control the entrance. August immediately sensed that it would not be possible to just go in, but he decided to try anyway. Misha, Abu, and August approached the door and greeted the headmaster and calmly headed inside, while August was immediately stopped. "Where are you going, young man?" He spoke with the most— Oh, I did not speak with the British accent. "To the meeting, sir." "I don't think so, and you know why." "Well, I'm just interested in learning about this program, and I don't have any lessons right now." "Lie. You were not accepted to the Vernay program. There's nothing for you to do here." "Yes, but there is nothing for you to do here." August knew the headmaster's personality well. No matter what August would say, he wouldn't let him in anyway. He addressed Misha and Abu in Russian. "You go ahead, and I'll try to get in later." And they did just that. August moved away from the entrance. The headmaster went inside and slammed the door behind him. August felt uneasy. He felt like an outcast, and the sound of the slamming door was a spin in his soul. There was nothing that could make him feel better. He failed, and his friends rose up. It was his fault, and there was no way to change anything. Getting into Oxford is still possible, but getting into Vernay is not. He was fully consumed by his thought for the next 10 minutes. Then he woke up and, remembering the plan, went back to the door. He tried to open it carefully and quietly, but it wouldn't move. He pulled the handle, but again, nothing happened. "That's strange," he thought. He pulled a few more times, but the door didn't open. The gates of Eden's are locked for the fallen. What nonsense is this? Doors are never locked during assemblies. This was unusual indeed. Maybe the headmaster guessed August's plan? There was another entrance to the great hall from the outside, and in any other situation August would have tried it, but now he had no desire to make his way inside. He was not in the mood to do anything, so he decided that the locked door was an insurmountable obstacle and, convincing himself that he had done everything he could, simply went to the library, wanting to hide from the world. Okay. He took a seat on the 3rd floor as far away from people as possible and began lazily and slowly picking up books from the shelves. He did not look at the titles and took random books from the poetry shelves. He loaded as many books as he could hold, unloaded them on the table and began to load up again. By the end, most of the poetry shelves were empty. When the dull green eyes realized that there were enough books, the construction of the Great Wall began. August surrounded himself with books, this time physically hiding from the world. He decided to drown. Read for an hour, 2, 3, 5. The library was filled with deathly silence. Sometimes the silence was broken by August's whispers. At those moments he covered his face with the book so that only his mouth could be seen, and in a voice of a dead man whispered, "A small child passes reality. He is afraid to face the blood court, afraid of his native God from the very cradle, but he is not embraced by the cross." Morning became afternoon. The lazy sun of late November was about to hide. August felt lonely and a little bored, but his friend did not show up yet. Once the meeting would end, they would immediately go to the library and look for August. And firstly, they would, Since they still did not show up, August thought that the meeting was still in progress. Oh my god. He put the books back and went to the bedroom to wait for Abu and Misha. But to his surprise, he did not have to wait. They were already sitting in the bedroom and studying. "Oh, you're already here." August was a little offended that his friend did not try to find him. "Yes?" Misha didn't say anything. "How was the meeting?" "Good." There was silence for several seconds. "Did you find out anything important?" "Not really." August stood there for a few more seconds, saying nothing. Then he went to his bed and sat down. He stared at the wall and tried to figure out those dry answers while Misha and Abu were studying in the silence, as if they had completely forgotten August. "Misha, let's play chess." "No." "Maybe cards?" "I don't want to." "Okay, Abu, what about you?" "I can't, I have to study." The room was silent again, and only the pen scratching the paper could be heard. August turned towards his friend and looked first at Misha and then at Abu. "I think it's them," August thought. "Maybe they're just tired?" He walked over to Abu. Abu paid him no attention, as if August was an invisible phantom and continued to study. August came even closer, but Abu still did not react, and then the emerald eyes slipped to the textbook to find out what had captured Abu's attention so much. August was surprised. Is this a maths textbook? Yes. You haven't done math since the beginning of the year. Yes. And now you suddenly decided to do it? Yes. August approached Misha and immediately checked his textbooks. English literature. Misha didn't even respond. What's up with you two? August got scared. Did the headmaster motivate you so well at the meeting? Silence in response. August was beginning to feel uncomfortable with such silence and then abnormal behavior of his friends. He could not understand what had happened, but the feeling of being an outcast penetrated deeper and deeper into his soul. He was shaken but managed to stay on his feet, but the discomfort grew and the pressure of the room forced him to leave. August even forgot to take his coat with him and ran outside in sub-zero weather with only his jacket on. The school's field greeted him with silence, but this silence was different. Comfortable, not oppressive, and he wandered into the darkness, shivering from the cold, but finally breathing deeply, muttering something to himself. Declaring my bones and freezing barriers, the cold bestows the hot sweetness of a chimera. He walked further and further, allowing the cold to completely envelope his body and the darkness to hide him from the world. The darkness will hide me from judging eyes and will heal the soul from childhood cuts. The lights out for all the students was 11 o'clock, and that night Misha and Abu went to bed right on time and fell asleep within minutes. August, however, couldn't sleep at all. He stood by the window, looking out at the street. Around 1 in the morning, he noticed two men loading strange tanks into a car. The tanks resembled those used by divers, but they were about twice as large. It was an unusual situation, but August quickly dismissed it. Convincing himself they were just some workers, he finally fell asleep just before dawn. The following week was strange, very strange. Misha and Abu didn't miss a single class, always submitted their homework on time, never acted rude, and behaved like model students. Whenever teachers asked them for something, they immediately complied. In the mornings, when Mr. Naylor came in to wake the students, Misha and Abu were already awake, sitting on their beds waiting for permission to get up before heading off to wash up. At night, right at 11, they were already under their blankets, drifting up to sleep. They spent all their free time studying, focusing not only on their favorite subject but also on all the others. August could not express his fear with words. What the fuck, he repeated to himself minute after minute throughout the first day. Initially, he feared that his friends had turned away from him, leaving him behind as they ascended to a new level of life. Then, after watching them closely without trying to hide, sometimes staring at them for 10 or 20 minutes straight, his fear transformed from selfishness to concern. He began to worry for them. He couldn't understand what had happened and how his closest friends had turned into completely different people, if they could even be called people, acting like robots that could only follow orders. They had forgotten about their weekly Brotherhood meetings and seemed oblivious to the informational assignments. August felt that even their appearances had changed. Once bright eyes had become dull, the faces had lost their ability to show emotions, and their hands looked soft and well-groomed. "What happened to you?" August cried. "Nothing," Abu replied coldly. Misha remained silent. "Please stop, stop! It's really scaring me," he pleaded. August still held on to his Oxford plan and spoke to his father on the phone several times, skillfully spinning stories each time, but the plan began to feel distant. With each passing day, it mattered less to him, as a far more serious problem emerged. He couldn't sleep at night, lying in bed and glancing at Misha and Abu, who slept soundly. After 3 sleepless nights, he began to drift off during breakfast, in class, during lunch, and at dinner, but not for too long, so he wouldn't lose sight of his friends. They hardly talked. August, of course, tried to gather information about the meeting in the Great Hall, as everything had changed so drastically afterward, but he learned nothing. The only thing Abu told him was that the meetings would now be held every week on Mondays. August started to suspect that something inhuman had been done to them during the meeting. These suspicions grew into conviction on Sunday, 6 days later, when all the students were forced to go to church. The hell? August's eyes widened, filled with tears as he watched Misha and Abu praying alongside everyone else. Misha was the biggest atheist on earth, while Abu, though not very devout, was still a Muslim. They had always protested against being forced to go to church and had never prayed. While Misha's praying could still be somewhat understood, Abu would never have read a Christian prayer, especially in a church. Something's been done to them, August thought. There's no doubt about it. This isn't who they are. He immediately tried to observe the behavior of the other students who had attended the meeting. They were studying diligently and obeying orders, but this provided August with no insight, as he didn't know them and had no idea how they had behaved before the meeting. Still, every person in their ranks acted the same, as if following some algorithm. There's a reason I wasn't allowed into the meeting, why the door was locked, and why the headmaster was personally standing at the entrance. What is this? Sorcery? Hypnosis? Occult? Blackmail? I have no idea. There's no information anywhere. Misha and Abu are silent. The other students who attended the meetings are too. Asking the headmaster would be foolish. August had checked the Great Hall several times but found nothing. Everything was as normal as usual. Something's been done to them against their will. Definitely against their will. Misha and Abu would never have agreed to this. I need something. Any clue. But there's no time to search. The second meeting is tomorrow. What am I going to do? It seems I'm the only one who can help them right now, and I have no idea how. August felt like he was behind enemy lines, invisible hands, unimaginable and unexpected in the warm, cozy corridors of the school, had emerged from the darkest corners, seizing Misha, Abu, and all the others unfortunate enough to be involved in the harmful program, aiming to take control of their minds, wills, and lives. August couldn't believe something like this was possible, which only intensified his fear. If the impossible had already happened, only God knew what would happen next. He began to suspect everyone and saw enemies everywhere, so any attempts to gather answers had to be made carefully. On the night from Sunday to Monday, he snuck into the library and searched for any information about the Vernay program. He didn't have internet access since all electronics were banned. The computers were only in the office and the doors to that area were locked. He found 3 books. 2 thin ones and 1 thick, along with a few flyers. This was all he could find. A night long, he eagerly absorbed the scant information he had access to, but he found nothing useful. Just the history of Vernay and biographies of notable alumni. In the early morning, he returned to the room, completely exhausted and desperate, lost in a conspiracy that seemed to have been devised by someone unknown for unclear reasons. He still knew nothing for certain, but now he was firmly convinced he would find a way out of this situation. Weekly meetings aren't held for no reasons. There can't be so much information that meetings need to happen this frequently. If there really was that much information, they would simply print everything out and hand it to the students. There's another reason for these frequent gatherings, and the headmaster's caution a week ago wasn't random. He was overseeing everything personally and even locked the door. Today's second meeting, Misha and Abu aren't going to it. I won't let them. No matter the cost, we can't draw attention. The director must not know that I've figured it out. It was already dawn. August glanced at the clock. 7:40. Mr. Naylor would arrive in 5 minutes. Misha and Abu woke up simultaneously, performing the exact same actions as if one were a mirror image of the other, sitting up on the beds in anticipation of Naylor. The sight sent shivers down August's spine. Abu, what time is your meeting today? He asked Abu, having grown accustomed to Misha's silence. But Abu remained silent too. Oh right, you're waiting for permission to get up. August was thinking out loud, as if no one else was in the room. According to the rules, talking is not allowed after lights out and before rising. Poor guys. They sat in silence for 5 minutes until the announcement for rising was made. The situation was far from ideal, and August couldn't shake off his fear, but he now had a rough plan. He repeated his question. At 9. I have just over an hour to get them out of school without raising suspicion. There's only one way, an injury. With serious injuries, the school nurses won't be able to manage, so they'll be sent to the hospital. At that moment, all the residents of the dorm, including the housemaster, were in the bathroom. There couldn't be a better moment. Abu, Misha, Mr. Naylor urgently needs you on the first floor. He has some pressing matter, and he specifically needs you. Okay. Like sheep, they hurried to comply, blindly believing that the orders came from Mr. Naylor. August followed them to the spiral staircase, breathing heavily from nervousness, and just at the foot of the stairs he extended his instruction. Abu, Mr. Naylor told you to wait here. Abu didn't say a word and stood completely still like a statue. Misha began to go down. August walked around Abu, looking him up and down, still barely believing what was happening, and followed Misha. After reaching the first floor, August gave Misha the same command, and he stopped right at the bottom of the stairs. Well, don't be too angry. You'll talk to me later. His arm, maybe? I don't know. I feel like breaking his nose and his precious face or whatever. Okay, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Blah, 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 blah. It's the arm. August moved behind Misha, lifted his right arm, grabbed his wrist with one hand, and pressed the other against his elbow. He bit his lower lip and began to breathe quickly and loudly, then sharply pressed on the elbow and pulled the wrist in the opposite direction. Misha's arm cracked like a branch and bent at the elbow by about 30 degrees. Misha screamed, but only for a second, began to sway and sat down on the step with an absolutely calm face. August immediately recoiled and, looking at the unnatural arms of Misha's arms, struggled to suppress his urge to vomit. Oh, his face twisted in a painful grimace. It seemed that August felt more pain for what he had done than the victim of his soft hand. He had never intentionally inflicted physical pain on anyone before, and now he had done it for the first time to a close friend, but he still believed he was doing the right thing. August hissed. He barely reacted. I mean, I understand it's Misha, but even for him, this is too much. Time was short, so he set aside his thoughts and ran back up the stairs to Abu, who was still patiently waiting without moving. He approached him from behind and said, Abu, I'm sorry this humiliation had to fall on you, but I couldn't put Misha in your place. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten even a scratch. After these words, Abu went tumbling down the stairs, shaking the entire building with every impact. He didn't make a sound, though under normal circumstances he would have cursed all of Grispel's students. At the bottom he collided with Misha. They both landed on the wooden floor and stayed there as the command to not move and wait was still in effect. Uh-oh. August rushed down and immediately began to examine Abu's body. Bruises, a torn jacket, a slightly bloodied eyebrow. These were all trivial, not enough. Ah, here it is, a broken finger, bent at a sharp angle. Thank God, I thought I'd have to finish you off. Such a fall and not a single sound. You're a tough motherfucker. And then Abu lifted his head and looked at August with displeasure. What did you say about my mother? August's eyes widened. His eyebrows shot up so high they disappeared into his hair, and his mouth fell open. Instant surprise was quickly replaced by an uncontrollable flow of happiness. You said that! You said it! You're back! But Abu laid his head back down on the floor and said nothing more. Say it again! Abu, fuck you! Fuck you and your mother! For a few seconds, the real Abu awakened, but he was immediately shoved back into the corner of his mind. Abu, you motherfucker! August continued, but there was no response. To hell with you. That's already enough. Even though Abu could only manage one truthful sentence all week, August could barely contain his joy for that sentence. Because that sentence meant that all was not lost yet, and friends could, in theory, break free. He suppressed his delight, as there were no time to celebrate. First, they needed to escape physically, and only then think about freeing their souls. August had already figured out how to manage Misha and Abu, so the next part of the plan was simple. Misha, Abu, don't you see your roommate is injured? I need to help my friend. Let's go to the medical center. The infirmary was located in the main building, which is where the three headed. Abu supported Misha. Misha supported Abu, while August calmly walked alongside with a small smile on his face that he couldn't wipe off after Abu's outburst. The empty field was once again shrouded in thick fog, and August shivered slightly from the cold, having not brought any outer clothing with him. The nurse arrived at 8 in the morning, and the trio arrived at the same time. The medical center consisted of 2 rooms, one where the nurse sat and the other designed on the other designated for 6 students, equipped with the 2 beds and chairs to accommodate them. August burst through the door with a bang, startling the nurse who hadn't even had a chance to sit down at her desk. Nurse! Nurse, help! What happened? August interrupted her, shoving her friends into the other room. Help, please, something terrible has happened. So what happened? Something terrible! Oh, it's awful! August wouldn't let her speak. As soon as his friends were in the next room, he slammed the door behind them and left alone with the nurse continued to act panicked. You won't believe what happened. He kept shouting, jumping around the room, almost in tears. What happened? It's absurd. We were coming down the stairs in our boarding house. I was behind. Abu and Misha were in front, and suddenly Abu tripped and fell on the steps, and Misha tripped over him and fell too. They both rolled down together. I ran after them, and when I caught up, I found them in such a state. I'm terrified to look at them. Please help. Calm down, everything's fine. I'll check on them right now. He walked slowly into the patient's room and looked at Misha and Abu, who were standing exactly where August had left them. Well, how did you manage to tumble down the stairs like that? In response, there was only silence and blank stares. Finally, Abu managed to squeeze out. Huh? No, it seems you've also bumped your head. You tripped on the stairs and rolled down. That's why you got hurt. Again, there was only silence and sheepish looks. I see. August in the other room smiled widely. Everything the superior says is their truth, so they fully believe the nurse. Less than a minute later, the incompetent nurse called for an ambulance because the injuries were serious, and within 10 minutes, Misha and Abu were outside the school grounds. Misha and Abu returned after 4 hours. Although their condition was stable and not particularly alarming, they were placed in the infirmary just in case emergency assistance were needed. In such situations, the nurse stayed overnight to monitor the patients. August sat in the same room as the injured, his face etched with worry as the headmaster was soon expected to arrive and start investigating. Abu propped himself up in bed and shouted, "What the hell am I doing here?" Then he lay back down and fell silent. August was no longer surprised. This was Abu's 3rd outburst since they had brought him back. His mind was struggling with something unclear with whatever had taken hold of him. He craved freedom, and August had stopped doubting that Abu would soon pull through, but Misha showed no signs of real life and laid quietly, with no movement. August kept tapping his foot on the floor, lost in deep thought. Maybe I should have broken his nose. Maybe that would have been better. The headmaster will be here soon, he thought. It's all fine. He doesn't know. From his perspective, there can't be any suspicion. The injuries are too serious, and to inflict them deliberately would take a lot. Besides, students often trip on that staircase, and even Mrs. Naylor has almost fallen down it a couple of times. He reassured himself. It's all fine. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. No! Footsteps were heard outside the door. God damn it. He gripped the chair tightly as a voice faintly echoed from the next room, and if August were walking alone in the deep woods— sorry, I missed one, I accidentally pressed twice— had heard a distant, unknown, but terrifying scream that chilled him to the bone, the effect would have been the same as that voice. Jesus Christ. In a week, August had stopped viewing the headmaster as a human. In him, he saw mystique, supernatural, something horrifying. The door swung open. That's the— okay. Well, that's the end of the Fall Act 1. Okay. I did not know that this game was more of a visual novel. I thought it would be more of I thought there would be more gameplay, because it seems like it has some interesting stories, right? But the and there's 5 different endings, so this will be a, you know, a game with different choices and endings and whatnot. I just wish there were less text and more gameplay, because I felt like certain things you could actually implement and have as a, I don't know, walk around as a character. Like when he was searching for answers in the library and other places, or in the main hall, or the hall where they were supposed to be having the meetings. When he went in there, we could have easily have that as a gameplay, where we could have searched for different things to see if we could find information or whatnot. I just feel like this is more or less just a novel. The story is intriguing, but I personally will probably not be wishlisting this, because I felt like it was too little gameplay for a novel, even for a novel. Like, I wish there was more. In certain places it was just walls of text, when they could have done it in a different way with pictures, or I don't know, maybe we could have done another job in the beginning, you know, one of those information broker jobs to get paid or something. So it was sadly not as I was anticipating it to be. I thought it was going to be more like The Crooked Man and stuff like that, but sadly not. Still a decent novel. I still think at the end there, they should have shown when the master comes in and have like a different kind of, what do you call it? Different kind of end to the demo, because right now I don't really feel like it ended in an interesting way, and it was very slow in the start. I understand that it was kind of slow in the start because they wanted you to get to know the characters, but I feel like we could have done that a little bit better without the walls of text. But and again, it is a visual novel, but I have seen better visual novels. But if you want to keep an eye on this yourself, or maybe do some different choices, I'll leave the link to their Steam page down below. And what did you guys think about this one? There was a lot of reading and my mouth was starting to it was starting to hurt. Hopefully it wasn't too bad for you guys, but either way, thank you so much for watching. Like or dislike the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, okay? Bye-bye.